So we've been working on butterfly guard this week. Last class was just kind of focused on creating an understanding of our goals with the butterfly guard and where you're going to use it as a beginner. It is not necessarily the highest percentage sweeping position because we don't really have that much control over our opponent, but it's really important to develop a strong understanding of hooks and inside positioning. With that, we talked about using our over-under sweep to sweep our opponent and come up on top, hopefully to the mount, if not to the side control at least, and score that sweep. Now, tonight, we're going to be focusing on two different parts. One is going to be attacking the back, and then the last part is going to be, in my opinion, one of the most important things with the X-Guard, which is actually transitioning out of the X-Guard to a better position. Because again, the X-Guard, while it can be strong, we generally use it to transition to just better guards. We'll talk about that in a minute. First though, let's talk about attacking the back using the butterfly guard. So I'm going to borrow Aiden for today. Now, we'll start here in the butterfly guard, super simple, guys. Now, I want to first have you guys understand that there are two main ways that I can attack the back, just period, in any situation. I can either move my opponent and then get to their back, or I can move myself and then get to the back. Most back takes are like a little bit of each. Right? So, for example, 2 weeks ago, we were working on the closed guard, and in the closed guard, we were doing the arm drag. We can do the exact same arm drag from the butterfly guard. Okay, go ahead and just sit back for me. Okay, so from here, if you remember from our closed guard module, for our arm drag, I got my 2-on-1 grip. I pulled that arm across my body, imagining like I'm slamming a door, and now that creates my back exposure. And just like we looked at with the closed guard, I can then start to climb up, get my hooks in, or start to break them down to a hip and take their back. So the cool thing about the butterfly guard is that you're essentially able to do the arm drag just like we did from the closed guard. It's no different. So that's not going to be our main technique, but I will let you guys, like, if you want to give that a try real quick, you can just review that with yourself, and then we'll be ready to move into the next piece. So again, I either move my opponent to get behind them, or I move myself to get behind them, and generally we do a hybrid of both. Now what we're going to do for our primary back attack is going to be lifting our opponent and moving ourselves underneath them as we attack the back. This is not necessarily the highest percentage back take, but it's again going to teach you some really important concepts, namely maintaining control of your opponent's hips and rotating your body to get behind them, which will be much more commonly used in higher level back tacks like baby bolos, barambolos, things like that. So with this back take, we're going to start with double unders. So I'm going to have both of my arms hooked underneath my opponent's body with a body lock here. You can go S grip. I generally prefer going gable grip just because it's a stronger grip in my opinion. Now that drill that we did for our warm up, you're going to start doing that drill first. So I'm going to roll back and I'm going to load my partner up. Top person, just be a good partner. Don't like go crazy and start flopping around. Just post your hands on the ground so that you catch yourself and you don't fall flat on your face, okay? So again, I'm gonna lift, and he posts. As soon as he posts his hands on the mat, I'm gonna start to duck my head underneath his arm. Let me fix my mic real quick here. Hang tight, Aiden. So once I've ducked my head underneath his arm, I'm gonna use my ear to keep pinching pressure on that shoulder. And in this situation, I'm going to use my hooks to now start to flip him and scoop my hips out to finish the back take. So we're again creating like a two-way street here. I'm moving myself behind them, but I'm also moving them away from me. And that's going to allow us to take their back. Okay? So when we do this one, top person, again, your job is to just be a good partner. Your job is to just stay strong on your hands, right? Don't flail around on top, and the other person will do all the rest of the work. This particular back take would be considered a duck under style back take because I'm ducking my head underneath their arm to get to their back. Okay? So again, I'm going to start with double underhooks, and my head is just going to go straight into their sternum. For simplicity, so I can talk to you guys, I'll be looking over there. But again, I'm going to basically go rhino mode, boom, right here. Okay, so again, my head is in tight. I'm going to roll back, lift and elevate them using my hooks, and he's going to catch himself. Here. As soon as he catches himself, I duck my head under to one side, and look, I use my ear to pinch his shoulder. That way he cannot bring that arm back. From this position, I'm going to take my opposite hook from my head, and I'm going to kick that foot up to the sky. So my head is on my left side, my right hook is gonna be the one that kicks up. As I kick that foot up, I swivel my hips out from underneath him, and I use our hip escape motion to fix my hip angle. Notice the whole time I still have that body lock grip. This is gonna allow me to control his hip so he can't turn away. To finish, I'll simply put in the top hook and connect my seatbelt. Now, if we rotate here, we'll do a full 180. Hoo-yah. If you notice I'm on the underhook side, that's totally fine. Just make sure that your head is beating their head to the floor. Don't let their head be underneath. That's an instant escape for the front person. So keep your head underneath theirs. Let's do this from the rear view. Oh no. All right, so nice and slow. I'm gonna start here. Maybe we're hand fighting. I shoot in, I get my double unders. I'm gonna load them up, pop my head out, switch the hooks. Now look, see how we're perpendicular with each other? Just like we talked about last week with the half guard, or any back take in that matter, I don't want to be perpendicular. So look, I'm gonna hip escape backwards and pull him into my lap. To finish, I get my seatbelt, top hook, and again, that shin comes in nice and tight to grip the shoulder. I'm gonna show this one again nice and slow without talking. We'll do one side, one rep from this position. All right, here we go. See how my head is tight, ready to control the position. From here, because you're on the underhook side, this is where we attack collar chokes. So if you guys wanna work a collar choke from here, you can start to set it up, adding a little bit of spice to the end of your technique. Okay, I'll show once more from this position. Pay special note to how I'm manipulating the hooks, guys. My head is on one side, the opposite foot is gonna kick. I'm basically trying to get him to do a spin move in between my legs. That's the idea with this. All right, so slow motion. So I'm hand fighting, I shoot in, body lock with double unders, load him up, pop the head out, and now look, head on one side, opposite hook is gonna kick as I use my left foot to drop his knees. So it's like a trap door. I wanna make him fall through that trap door. Okay, now look, we're perpendicular. So I'm gonna use my left foot to simply hip escape, set up the body, or set up the seatbelt, and now I'm on the back. I'll pantomime it real quick. You're good, Aiden? I'll pantomime it real quick. You'll see it's a very simple leg movement, okay? So let's say I'm here, body lock, load them up, pop your head underneath. So I'm ducking my head underneath their arm. And now look, all I'm gonna do, that's it. Just kick their foot up, their leg up, hip escape out, and take the back. All right, guys? Any questions? Cool. So play around with this one. Just remember, arm drag is always an option too. We did our arm drag not even 2 weeks ago, so that one should be fairly fresh, so I wanted to give you guys another look at a different style of back take today. All right, let's go, 1, 2. Does anybody have any questions on that little back take before we move on to our last piece today? All right, so just a couple notes on that back take. Everything was actually looking very good, so I'll borrow Aiden real quick. Everything was looking great on the back take, guys. We were loading them up really well. A couple of issues that we ran into, though. A little rule of thumb that I follow is if I am not successful with a back take, it's almost always because I didn't have proper hip angle, meaning my hips were not facing their hips. That's almost always the issue. So if you were having a little bit of difficulty like solidifying the back, it's probably because your hip angle was off. So let's look at a couple other issues we saw here. I got my double unders. Some of us were not loading them up enough. If I just do this to him, you see how I've not loaded him up. I want to basically lift him up so hard that if he were not to catch himself, he would face plant behind me. Free sweep, right? That's the goal. I want to load him up so hard that he has to catch himself. That's how we make the space to pop our head out. So I'm here. I want to really go, whoa, throw him up to the sky. And now look, I've got pick of the litter. I can easily bring my head to either side. So I pull my head out. And now we did good with this kick, actually, guys. This was the tricky part. But after I do my kick and I hip switch, use that top foot, my left foot here, to start to scoop back. My right foot needs to stay engaged. Let's turn 180 degrees here, Aiden. So guys, look how my right foot is off the floor. Some of us are being lazy with this bottom hook and letting it droop down on the mat. Again, you'll encounter false positives. You might take someone's back, but that's only because they don't realize that you don't have a good bottom hook. So keep that bottom hook engaged. And now look, hip escape. See how he kind of fell down into my lap? And now I'm here. Quick note, you can try to take this arm out and get an overhook. The only problem is if you take this arm out, now there's nothing holding his head away from the mat. He's gonna flat back, okay? So I would recommend just stick with the underhook side. This is generally the more dominant side to attack with anyways. You have most of your collar chokes here. So I would prefer to actually stay on the underhook side personally. But again, if you find an opportunity to do this, maybe you get a one-arm grip here, you lift, then you can punch in the overhook. That's fine too, okay? So one last little detail here, guys. When we were doing this, this back take, this is one that, remember how I said it's not necessarily the highest percentage back take? We just have to kind of like really go for it, right? So when you're going for this back take, don't stop moving. So again, I'm here. Boom, I just continue moving and pushing until I can get behind him. If you kind of stop and wait, you're giving your opponent the opportunity to settle their weight on top of you, and that is how they start to pass. I want to keep the top person constantly posting, okay? This is one of my big tenets as a guard player. If the top person is not putting their hands on the mat, I am not doing my job properly. The top player needs to be constantly doing this, constantly catching themselves. If they're not catching themselves, I'm not doing my job, okay? Let's now talk about our last technique tonight. This is going to be using the butterfly guard to actually transition to an entirely different guard. We're going to transition to the X guard. In my opinion, the X guard is far and away one of the most dominant sweeping positions. If you can get to an X guard, it's pretty much a guaranteed sweep. Now, the X guard itself is not a scary, complicated position, right? When you see it, you might be like, what the heck is that? But I promise, it's very simple. I'll break it down as always. But here's how we're going to start. Again, the issues that we fall into with the butterfly guard is that it's too easy for our opponent to simply step out and post and catch themselves. So maybe perhaps I'm going for like an over-under sweep. This is how we're going to start. I'm going to start attacking that over-under sweep from last class. As I go to sweep him over towards my left side, he's going to use his foot to step out and post. Boom, and look how he's caught himself. Now I have two choices here. Maybe I can be like, no, I can finish this and try to really kick him hard. Or I might try to abandon this position and get back to a safer guard. But because he's posted, he's given us the opportunity to transition to X guard. Let me show you what that's going to look like. Here we go. And now I'm in X guard, okay? So X guard is actually really simple, okay? And I'm telling you guys right now, if you get good at X guard, you will be able to sweep literally anybody, okay? I sweep black belts with this all the time. So all X guard is a frame and hook-based guard. That's it. I'm going to have Aiden just stand up. Back up now. Just walk away. This is all X guard is. One foot is framing against their groin. The other foot can either be hooking or framing against their far thigh. That's all it is. I'm creating a series of frames to keep their weight loaded up on top of me. Come back into my X guard here, Aiden. So we're here. This foot is stepping against the side of his groin, not obviously on their groin, clearly. Okay, I'm stepping and framing next to it. The more old school variation of X guard sees us putting our foot all the way over here. We generally don't use this one as much anymore, just because in no-gi it opens up a lot of heel hook opportunities, and it also opens up access to a lever where you can push my toes down and start to strip the guard open. So we like to use what we lovingly refer to as a taint frame, okay? So my foot is framing right here. Okay, guys? Once we're in this position, we're going to do a very simple sweep from here. It's just a technical stand-up. All you're going to do is you're just going to stand up. I'll demonstrate it slowly. And now, again, I kind of have my pick of what I want to do. A really easy option, which we'll start with, is just grab his other ankle. Just make him fall down. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and talk about how we're going to transition there. This is our main focus, is how do we actually make that transition happen. So let's do like 45 degrees here. Okay, that's fine. So I'm going to start with my over-under. I'm going to hit the exact same sweep. Let the top person step out and catch themselves. So they're going to step this foot and catch. Boom, just like this. So as soon as he does this, first, I'm going to need, sit up tall for me, I'm going to need to keep my right knee externally rotated with my hook tight. This has to be a strong frame. If I let this knee internally rotate, come back down, Aiden, he comes into a side smash. And now he can leg weave and put me in a whole lot of trouble here. So instead, I keep my knee open, externally rotated. Okay, you can push your hands back down. Now, my left arm is going to underhook his ankle, and my goal is to put his foot on my shoulder like a bazooka. Now, my right hand is going to start framing against his armpit. I do this so that I can extend him and push him away from me, and so he cannot center back up. So look, I'm pushing him away. Now, my final goal is to get this left foot hooked underneath his hips. Look, it's a little tight. So all I'm gonna do is kind of pump my hips. See how I kind of like jumped my hips up in the air? And it's very easy to put the hook in. Again, this hook is stepping right underneath their groin, okay? From this position, we're now ready to sweep. We're gonna do the sweep next. Don't worry about that right now. Let's just get here. Okay, guys? So, slow motion. I get my over-under grip. I start to hit the over-under. He posts. Underhook. Push his armpit away. And get that foot hooked underneath his groin. Look how I load that foot all the way up, and keep your head rigid. Don't let your spine bend. He's gonna start to extract his leg and access the spine as a lever to make his escape. So stay rigid. It's like I'm answering a telephone on his foot. Okay, guys? Look, knee-elbow connection is strong. I'm ready to start to stand up and easily sweep my opponent. All right, guys, I'll show once more. Let's go from this direction. Again, if we don't have time for the sweep today, like if I see that we're having a little bit of trouble with this entry, don't worry about the sweep. We can just focus on this. If we're doing well, though, we'll, of course, do the sweep at the end. All right, slow motion here. I'm grabbing. I start to elevate. I push. I get to X guard here. This foot can either hook or frame. Okay? Let's real quick talk about the reactions the top person needs to do. Don't fall, right? They're not sweeping you right now. They're just entering to a guard. Don't fall. But also, stay relaxed. Just kind of float on top of them. This is good practice to learn how to defend guard sweeps. If you suddenly like start to freak out and move around, you're likely to get swept. If you're just really relaxed and lazy, you're likely to get swept. Just stay in control. When they elevate, catch yourselves. When they start to push and lift the leg, just kind of float. Float on top. All right, I'll show one more time without talking, and then we'll get to work. And so from this position, we're ready to sweep, and we'll do that later. Okay, don't worry about this right now. All right, any questions? Okay, guys, let's try this one out. I promise, if you get good at X guard, this is like the only guard sweeping position you'll ever need in your game, okay? Let's try it. 1, 2. I'm gonna give you all a little bonus. Let's just real quick run through this sweep. If you get it, awesome. If you don't get the sweep, that's totally fine. No problem at all, okay? Remember, the important part is that we're understanding how to use the butterfly guard to transition to better positions. Maybe X guard, maybe single leg X, whatever. All right, so brought in. Now, the sweep is actually dead simple. Literally, all you need to do when you get to this position is just stand up. That's it, all right? So the entry was looking pretty good, right? I go to dump him. He posts. I underhook, press him away, and get into the X guard here. Remember, I'm nice and high with that leg. Once I'm in this position, all I need to do now is start leg pressing my legs forward. So I'm gonna stomp forward and start to get up on my bottom leg. But look how I keep my head rigid. If I do this, his foot's gonna slip off. Boom, and I lose it. So all I need to do is just, if your back is perpendicular, you're golden. If your back goes parallel, you're done. So look. Just stand up, okay? And now, in order to finish this, there's several different things. Generally, when I teach this to beginners, I'll just show them an ankle pick. Grab their other ankle and just start walking forward. Overwhelm their posts and put them on their back or their butt. But again, sometimes you'll even roll against people where the second you stand up, they don't even know what's happening and they will just sit down and they'll concede 2 points. That's 2 points, okay? So let's look one more time. So I'm here, I go to sweep, he catches, underhook, push him away, and look, I'm just gonna use my feet to start to step him forward, stand up nice and tall. See how my back is always rigid. I'm perpendicular with the floor at all times. Okay, so again, you can go ankle pick. You can also double up, gable grip on his knee, and start pulling his knee down to return his hips to the mat. So I can come here. Or you can also leg drag and go to the back for a body lock. And now look, we're attacking the back. Okay, so don't get in the weeds too much about like, how do I finish? Just get up, just stand up, okay? Then you'll work something out. That's the cool part about X guard. As long as we get to the position, it's pretty much a done deal. All right, guys, I'll give you all a little bit of bonus time. Let's play around with this, and then we'll move into some live training. Any questions? Let's try. Let's go 1, 2.